Mr. President.
Senator from Georgia.
Mr. President, before he leaves the floor, I want to commend the distinguished senator from Wyoming, a physician himself, not just for his good remarks today, but for his litany of good remarks throughout the debate on the Affordable Care Act. For 6 years, he has been an outspoken voice of what's right for the American people, what the American people want, which is affordable, quality health care. And I appreciate his contribution not just to the debate today, but the debate we've had in the past and the one we're about to have in the future. Because he is right. We must come together, Republicans and Democrats alike, and make sure that the broken promises of the Affordable Care Act are fixed, that affordable, accessible, quality health care is available to the American people, that it's deliverable by a private, competitive, free enterprise system, and that government mandates that force prices up, quality down, go away. So I want to thank the senator for his contribution and all the great work that he does. In fact, he's not quite as old as me, but he might like the movie I like, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Did you ever see that? There's a great line in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid where they're sitting in a cave after having robbed a bank. And Butch looks over at Sundance and says, boy, I just love it when a plan comes together. Well, 6 years later, as you look back on the Affordable Care Act, the plan is unraveling. It's costing the American people more. Health care is less accessible. Deductibles are higher. It's time that we fixed it, and we fixed it right. And if the King versus Burwell case is decided, as it will be in the next few weeks, we have an obligation to keep the first promise the president did not keep. Remember President Obama said, if you like your insurance, you can keep it? Well, if Burwell loses and if King wins and the courts rule that the subsidies are illegal, approximately 9.5 million Americans who have gotten insurance and have it through subsidies under the Affordable Care Act would be threatening to have their insurance lost immediately upon the decision. We can't let that happen. We've got to see that we build a bridge from where we are today to a future of better health care, more accessible health care, and more affordable health care. So we must remember, as Republicans who have so often criticized the president for that remark about if you like your health care, you can keep it, making sure that we don't become an unwitting accomplice in this decision if King wins, by first and foremost ensuring the 9.5 million that have coverage, we will work to see that you can keep your coverage and you have a bridge to a better, more competitive, more affordable health care system. It's important for us to remember that. Number two, it's important for us to remember that we can't recreate a system that the president created in terms of paying for the health care system. Have you ever thought about how the Affordable Care Act is paid for? It's paid for in the following ways. One, higher co-payments. One, less benefits. One, higher premiums. But even worse, a revenue system that actually punishes free enterprise. The 85% medical loss ratio mandate, which cut out every private sector insurance salesman who sold medical plans to the American people, because when you take 85% as the maximum loss ratio, then you've only got 15% for administration. There's nothing to pay or compensate anybody for selling the policy. That's number one. Number two, when we were short of $19 billion, the president decided to create the HIT tax. What's the HIT tax? It's an arbitrary tax against small and medium-sized group medical companies, charging them not on their premium, not on their revenue, but on their percentage of market share. Where in the world has the government ever decided to take market share as an indicator of how much you pay? It made no sense unless you were trying to find dollars to make sense, and then the president did it. And I could go over litany after litany after litany. The medical device tax, which for an orthopedist deals with devices in everything that he does. The medical device tax is not a tax on net profit from medical devices. It's a 2.3% surcharge on the gross revenues for a device manufacturer. I tell the story about my visit to South Africa 2 years ago when I got a call from my governor who said, you're in Johannesburg, South Africa. Would you go to the Chamber of Commerce there and visit with a Georgia company that's from Kennesaw, Georgia, that's a small medical device manufacturer who's selling their product, and just tell them thank you for their business? I said, sure. I went by that evening for a reception, found the gentleman from Kennesaw and said, thank you so much for doing your business in Georgia. He said, oh, I've moved. I said, I'm sorry. The governor's office called me. He said, well, I just announced I'm moving this week. They don't know it yet. I said, where are you moving? He said, Madrid. I said, Madrid, Spain? He said, yes. I said, why? He said, because the medical device tax is making it impossible for me to do what I need to do in terms of innovation, in terms of marketing, and in terms of distribution. So it was an ill-conceived act with the best of intentions, but the worst of results. How bad? Just like Senator Barrasso just said a minute ago, in Georgia, one plan is going up 38%. One plan. That's the highest that we know of. Not 4%, not 10, not 11, not 17, but 38%. There are 10,796 Georgians who have that plan, who now have the alternative of going to find something else or paying 38% more. I don't know about you. I don't know about everybody else, but wages aren't growing by 38%. Opportunity's not grown by 38%, but if the cost of health care, which you want to have, goes by 38%, you have to find a way to pay. What does that do? It hurts the economy, it hurts the family, it hurts the American people. So as we look at the results of what's going to happen with King v. Burwell, if the King is ruled in favor of and the courts throw out the subsidies on the Affordable Care Act, we need to first of all do no harm. We need to say to it that nobody is arbitrarily immediately loses insurance that they planned on. We need to keep the promise President Obama made and never kept. That's number one. Number two, we need to get everybody in the same room, Republicans and Democrats alike, providers and beneficiaries alike, and let's build a health care system for the 21st century for America that rewards the best health care system in the world by allowing it to innovate, by encouraging it to compete, and not by making arbitrary decisions on cost and taxation which drive people out of the marketplace and out of business. I'm at that age where I care about my health care. I enjoy my health care. I like the policy that I've got. It costs me a lot more than it did before the Affordable Care Act, but health insurance is important. But there's a limit to what I can absorb, there's a limit to what the American people can absorb, and there's a limit to what government can do to try and fit a square peg in a round hole. I learned in Boy Scouts that doesn't work. The Affordable Care Act is a square peg that for 6 years we've tried to fit in a round hole that doesn't exist. It's time that we rounded that peg, took into consideration the American people, the taxpayers and the patients and the physicians, and did what's right for the American people. Don't break our promises, let's keep our promises. Let's allow them to have the choice of insurance policies that once they buy them, they can keep them, in a system that doesn't mandate increases, but instead encourages competition and quality and makes sure the health care the American people want is accessible, affordable, available, and delivered in a competitive free enterprise market by the private sector. I thank the chair for the time, and I yield back the rest of my time.